I'm curious, were you ever approached for acquisition? Because again, we're not public about the numbers here, but I'm guessing that you could definitely easily be approached for at least $10 to $20 million acquisition.
I think there was a couple times that I came close. I guess for me, like the valuation just didn't really make sense because I was like, well, if I sell this, what else am I going to do? At that point, I would have honestly sold it if they had given me the offer. Thankfully, I didn't. Now things have grown to the point where like the revenue is higher than that acquisition offer would have been in the first place.
Do you feel like that fear of kind of returning to your childhood environment fuels you?
Absolutely. And I think that is one of the biggest mindset differences that I've seen. The biggest mindset difference between like the average student or entry-level developer in India versus the US, skill-wise, US developers are absolutely better. But in terms of just like people in India, I mean, they're dogs. Like they want it so bad because the alternative to them is very, very poor lifestyle.
How NeetCode became a competitor to LeetCode itself?
I've kept NeetCode like very, very simple, and it just solves like one problem and it does it very well. Like you go on LeetCode, there's like 5,000 problems. Like what do you do? The order is kind of crazy. Like you don't know how to do it. There's no explanations. The fact that I took 150 problems and said, hey, this is all you need. People hate making choices, so you have to take the choice away from them. The main difference between LeetCode. Now, if somebody were to copy what I'm doing right now, it's probably not going to get traction just because you have to differentiate somehow, unless they blow up on social media or something. Even that's just not going to be enough to displace me. Like I'm just so entrenched. My social media following is so big that if somebody's going to talk about coding interviews, they're going to talk about NeetCode probably. And that's a very good position to be in.
What advice do you have to them at this stage? Do you recommend that someone like quits their job and goes all in? Do you recommend they create content on the side, kind of showing their work? What would that kind of like step-by-step play be if someone wanted to make money online who's like a career professional currently?
Yeah, I would highly recommend
3, 2, 1, liftoff.
Navi, welcome back.
Yeah, glad to be here.
You're currently running a multi-million-dollar creator business. What is it actually like to run an education company at that level in the alternative education space online? And talk to me about the pressure, the scale, and the reality of being in entrepreneurship today.
Yeah, I think my journey has been a little bit unique. I think when most people get into a space like this, they do it very deliberately and they kind of do it from like the business angle. I guess one thing that's been unique is mine has been like more like creator focused, even though I wouldn't really consider it that way. Like I don't really think too formally about these things like I'm a creator or make that like a part of my identity. But when I do kind of look at the journey, it all started from making content, which was educational content. And then that kind of turned into a business. Yeah, it's kind of just been really like bottom up growth and people just really, really like it. That's why the business is even existing because it really solves a very specific problem. And I think I do it pretty well. So that's kind of been my journey.
Again, I'm a customer of yours. Before I even met you in the past, over the past few years, I've bought several of your courses. I've recommended dozens, if not over 100 of my students to buy your courses as well, because I think there really are some of the best educational content for data structure, system design, and if someone wants to get a job in tech out there. Talking about your brand, I think a big part of your success, not a big part of your success, but a big part that is very impressive is that you built a faceless brand at first. And that was very interesting to me because most people on YouTube, me included, are on, my face is on there, my personality is part of it, my story is part of it. I think for you now it is. Now people know your journey, your past, now that you've like, face revealed on your last day of Google. But a big part of the faceless brand is that you could be approached for acquisition. So I'm actually very interested in that. I know a lot of like faceless course platforms, and yours like an incredible example where someone else, before you face revealed, someone else could take over NeetCode and continue to make NeetCode videos without you being involved, and it could have maybe 90% of the same result if the solutions and videos were as good as yours, right? So I'm curious, were you ever approached for acquisition? Because again, we're not public about the numbers here, but I'm guessing that you could definitely easily be approached for at least $10 to $20 million acquisition. So were you ever approached for acquisition, and why not just sell the brand and move on?
Yeah, I think there was a couple times that I came close. And I guess for me, like the valuation just didn't really make sense because I was like, well, if I sell this, and what else am I gonna do? And a couple of years ago, I think somebody had actually offered to buy it. and they just couldn't pay as much as I would have liked because I think VC funding was kind of messed up at that time. It wasn't really great, so they didn't really have enough cash to do it, and that's what I was most interested in, like a cash offer. And at that point, I would have honestly sold it if they had given me like the offer. Thankfully, I didn't, because now things have grown to the point where like the revenue is higher than that acquisition offer would have been in the first place. So I think I've kind of been like very, very like, I wouldn't say pessimistic, but I've been very careful because I never expected this to like be as big as it was or to last as long as it has. I would be very happy going back to Google or another company and just being a software developer my whole life. I really would. But I've been very fortunate to be running this. And so I'm in a very fortunate position. Like, I really can't ask for more. I'm not really interested in kind of having like as much money as possible or having as much luxury as possible. Those things aren't really interesting to me. I just want to enjoy my life and wake up every day getting to do something that I enjoy. And I'm in a position right now that I can do that. And I think that's the biggest reason I've been successful in the first place. If I didn't enjoy making the LeetCode videos, they would probably suck ass and nobody would watch them anyway. So yeah, I think that's just been that's been my mindset.
You live a very interesting lifestyle, even though I've only known you for one day at this point. I'm not going to be public about exactly where you are, but you're not in New York City, San Francisco, living in a penthouse suite, you know, living that like bougie lifestyle, right? You're living in a very normal town with your family. And famously, like, and I think this has blown up on Twitter several times, like your bedroom with like your mattress right there and then your side table or whatever is on the ground. Like, it's a very simple, basic life. And when you were talking about how when you were approached for acquisition, you ran through your head that, okay, if I gave this up and I had like, let's just make up a number. Let's say you had like $5 million or whatever, right? What would you do differently? You probably just go back and keep making videos, right? And I think that reminded me of when Zuckerberg was approached. I'm sure you know, right? The famous story of when Zuckerberg was approached for $1 billion from Yahoo. The reason, and he was, I think, like 23 or 19 or something. He was either late teens or early 20s, and he was approached for $1 billion to sell Facebook. And the reason he didn't was because he thought it to himself, what would I do if I had $1 billion? I'd probably just launch another Facebook, right? Because my goal is to connect the entire world. And that sounds very similar to you, where it's like, okay, what would I do with this money? I would just do the exact same thing. Yeah. So why sell?
Yeah, that's pretty much my mindset. Yeah, I enjoy it, and I just enjoy learning. I just enjoy doing things. I don't want to, like, a lot of people want to retire and do nothing their whole lives and, you know, drink pina coladas on the beach. And I respect that. Like, some people, that's what people want. That's not really for me, though. So I just don't think I'd be happy. Like, having more things makes me less happy, paradoxically. Like, if I had 10 cars, I would probably not really appreciate them as much as one car. So that's kind of my mindset.
I'm actually curious, like, why don't you live a more lavish lifestyle? Yeah. Because I know, and we haven't talked to exact numbers. I know you could. I know you could have like a penthouse in some city and have like a Lamborghini and just buy like really expensive clothes. Why don't you just flex it and just use that money?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could. I think people would probably see me, like online, people would probably see me as more of like a douchey person, and people, it would be like, oh, NeetCode changed. But I mean, I'm very like happy with my life now, to be honest. Like, I grew up pretty poor. We lived in a very small apartment, just me, my two brothers, and my mom. And so just the lifestyle increase from that to now has just been so dramatic that I really don't think from now to living the life of a billionaire on private jets, like, that is actually a smaller jump than was from my childhood to now. So I could do that, but it's just going to make me want more and more and more. So I think at some point you have to say, like, you know, what kind of life do you really want to live? Do you just want more and more at the expense of like other things? I think right now I'm in a position where I want to spend more of my time on like the important things, like family and like friendships and relationships, and just doing work that I enjoy and kind of having an impact and things like that. I think those are the things that you really can't replace. If you don't have those things, that core stuff, family, like a support system, it doesn't really matter how much money you have, because you hear about this all the time, like billionaires that are depressed because they don't have anything in their life. They, you know, cheated on their wife or whatever, and then they don't have kids, or they're throwing parties, but you know, that's just very shallow and stuff. So I think, I think that's just not a good recipe for me.
What do you think the levels of wealth are? Because like you mentioned how you grew up in a bit of a tough environment money-wise, and then you got a job at Amazon and then Google, and Google obviously pays I'm guessing 200K at least total compensation if you include stock and also salary. That's a great, that's a life-changing salary. And then now I'm sure that, again, like that's probably multiple times over in terms of running your own business and owning a company. So where do you think like those big step changes were in terms of income and quality of life? And what do you think those levels of wealth actually are in reality?
Yeah, I think when I got my job at Google, I think just the fact that like I was able to then like afford like a car and like mortgage payment and stuff like that was probably the biggest jump. Like I think once you get to the point where like you're able to own your own home, especially in the United States, like that's how it works, where if you have a mortgage, you know that your rent is never going to be increased. And that's kind of like where I grow up. Rent is increasing very quickly, and it's happening everywhere, obviously. But once you have a mortgage, like you're kind of your own boss in the sense of like your own house, where nobody's ever going to raise the mortgage on you. As long as you can pay it, the bank is going to be good, and eventually you'll own your own house. So I think that's really the biggest one. Like once you have that, you really can't ask for much more, and you have a job where you can provide for yourself. That's kind of like the biggest thing. Like you have financial security. And I guess like the next step up, people would say, is like being able to spend money on things that you enjoy, like travel and stuff like that. Having like a vacation every so often. But beyond that, I really don't think, and I'm not a billionaire, so I don't know, but I don't think the cliche that people say where like money doesn't buy happiness, it's very true. Like that cliche, there's actually a lot of truth to it, because like there's really like, you know, I've spoken to like big people like CEOs and like people a lot richer than I am, and they seem just as human as I am. Like, you know, if they don't have any hobbies that they enjoy, then they're going to sit at home and they're just not going to feel good about themselves. So it's like they're just as human as you. So you know, money is just money. You can buy connections and stuff like that, but you can't really buy happiness.
What percent of your income do you actually spend? Because again, like based on your lifestyle you're talking about right now, you must be saving at least 80% of your income. Also, based on your company, right? Like I'm guessing that your expenses are quite low. You probably have a very high profit margin. It's a education courses based company, which again is already a very high profit margin. But then again, I'm sure you're making most of the content. I'm sure maybe you have a few team members who are helping out here and there. But by and large, once you post a course, it's pure profit from that point on. Right. So what do you do with like what percent of your income do you actually spend, and what do you do with like all of those savings? Is it just in a bank account? Is it just in the S&P? What's your thought process there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I try not to be too risky. I'm pretty risk averse, so most of my money is just like S&P. I do treasuries as well, like money market funds, just to have some cash. And I do a little bit of like individual stock picking. I try not to go crazy with it. It's more of just like an addiction or a bad habit. I've done like decently well. Like most of the companies I own are just like big tech and the companies that I feel like are monopolies. But in terms of how I spend my money, I pretty much, other than like a mortgage and like bills and stuff like that, I'd say my biggest expense is probably DoorDash, which, God, I mean, it's just so addicting to be able to spend like to eat whatever you want and then just have it delivered to you. So that's probably my biggest expense. And I think probably that's around like $500 a month. But yeah, other than that, I'm pretty much saving everything. Not because I'm like saving for something. I just like the financial security of it. Like I'm just addicted to it. Like that's like the thing that helps me sleep better at night, knowing that, you know, I'll never be poor again. And like, it's kind of like when you're poor, like you kind of have that in the back of your mind where like, shit, I don't ever want to be poor again. I never want to end up in this position. And I was the same way, even when I was working at Google, I was trying to save as much as I possibly could. I think when I joined Google, I tried to get a home as quick as I could because I was afraid that the market was going to keep increasing, which unfortunately it has. But I just wanted to get that. Like I felt like once I can have a house and have a mortgage and it's capped, then I'm financially secure in that. So that was kind of like the biggest decision for me.
Do you feel like that fear of kind of returning to your like that childhood environment fuels you? Do you feel like that it's like,
absolutely,
dude, I have to, it's kind of like this thing behind you. It's like, dude, I have to keep going because I want to escape the 0.1% chance that it might happen again. I have to like make sure I can never get close to there ever again.
Absolutely. And I think that is one of the biggest mindset differences that I've seen, because I talk to a lot of people and a lot of like developers and students. The biggest mindset difference between like the average student or entry-level developer in India versus the US, like there might be a skill set mismatch. I think skill-wise, US developers are absolutely better. But in terms of just like like people in India, I mean, they're dogs. Like they want it so bad because the alternative to them is like a very, very poor lifestyle. If they can get that job, they'll do anything for it. We have like a culture in the US of like really prioritizing mental health sometimes, which I don't think is a bad thing. But a lot of time people will take it too far. They'll say, well, I don't want to work past 5 p.m. because what about my mental health, guys? Like, God forbid I have to work a couple extra hours. And that's like a mindset I personally never really had. And I think I wouldn't say I'm as extreme as some of the folks in India, but I think for me, like I was willing to sacrifice mental health. Like that's something I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to sacrifice hobbies. I'm willing to sacrifice in order to get a better lifestyle. And I'm not saying I recommend it to everybody, but it's absolutely helped me get to where I am. And without it, I think I'm a very lazy person. So I'm not trying to sit here and act like I'm a hardworking person, but I think that has very much driven me. And I take pride in that. Like I take pride in being somebody who's hardworking, somebody who's willing to do the hard things for a better lifestyle.
On the point you made about Indians moving to the US and the motivation of people in India, I actually think it's very interesting that I think there was a stat which is like, so of the biggest tech companies in the world, a lot of them have like Indian CEOs, or there's a phenomenon of like Indians who come to America and the United States actually end up doing very well for themselves here. And I think on that point, part of it has to be that drive, which is like the drive of not wanting to fail and go back to that like experience combined with the opportunity that America and the US provides in terms of entrepreneurship and hard work and what you can make for yourself in this country, which I still think is here today. I think a lot of people shit on the United States and complain that, oh, it's so bad, the US is so bad, I want to move elsewhere. But if you really look at almost any other country in the world, they see the US as literally paradise because it's actually not a given in countries like India and Pakistan and China that you can make it, really. Like it's not a given that hard work equals success monetarily and lifestyle wise, which I feel like in the US, sure, there's all these stats about like prices increasing and inflation. And yeah, sure, maybe like 50 years ago in the US, it was slightly easier to buy a home. No, it was easier, definitely. I agree. But still to this day, I think the American dream is very real. It is very possible to make something of yourself. It is very possible if you have that work ethic and grind to actually build something, which is why I think a lot of people in India want to come here and they have to do very, very well for themselves because of the opportunities this country provides.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I don't want to like be too political, but I think there is something like very special about the US because like when you look at a lot of the things that have happened, like the fact that I know Elon is like a controversial person, but the fact that he immigrated to the US and that his company started in the US and that, all these other CEOs like Sergey Brin and a lot of people that they came to the US, they didn't go to Canada, they didn't go to Europe, they didn't go to Australia, they came to the US because the US, with all its faults in terms of like free markets and innovation and hard work, and capitalism as well, as controversial as it is huge. Like it's not a coincidence that like some of the first and best vaccines for COVID were created in the US because the US has like this deep domain knowledge. And I think a lot of people forget that like if you have a pie and you're trying to like divide it evenly, I think that's a thing that we could do a lot better in the US. We could divide that pie more evenly. But there are a lot of countries like India and in some ways even Canada recently, their pie is not so big. They don't, no matter how they divide it, somebody's just not going to get a slice. And we don't have that problem in the US. Like the pie is big enough for everybody. We just don't divide it super evenly, but at least we have it. Yeah, that's how I see it.
I agree. I think even if you just look at the stats of the biggest companies in the world, almost all of them, there's like a very large disproportionate share that come from the United States. Sure, like nowadays, if you look at companies like China or countries like China and India, there are some big, billion-dollar companies coming from there. But even if you compare to Europe, right? Like European countries have been around far longer than the United States. The United States has only been around for 250 years. It's a new country, relatively speaking. Yet the number of just billion and trillion dollar companies and entrepreneurs and people who build things is just completely disproportionate here. And in our previous conversation, we were talking about the impact of culture. And I think the US really does have that culture.
Yeah.
And compared to some other countries, like in European countries, I haven't, lived in the UK or France, but I hear that there's a culture of just stay in your lane. Like, why do you think you're too good to go out there and build something? Just put your head down, get a normal job, kind of like tall poppy syndrome. When someone kind of ascends, the rest want to tear them down. Whereas in the US, it's kind of like a bit of a fuck it culture. It's like, dude, you want to build this company, just go and do it. You know what I mean? So I think that energy creates a lot more successful individuals compared to other cultures.
Yeah, absolutely. It creates a lot of billionaires who sometimes hoard wealth, but it also creates a lot of jobs that pay a lot of money. And, software developers as well, like they make a lot more money in the US than they do in other countries. And a lot of reasons for that. There's less like labor protections in the US, but there's a lot more innovation and there's a lot of productivity happening.
So I want to actually talk about the history of NeetCode, but less from the software engineering sense and more about the business sense. So when did you actually launch your channel? I believe was it in 2020? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's
summer 2020.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and walk me through like year by year by year. What was the scale, and what were the big movers you actually made up till today?
Yeah, so I'll say that the first year, so from 2020 to like the end of 2021, when I first like got into Google, the growth was pretty slow. Like it was just YouTube videos, like they'd get like a few hundred views. And so I think I got to a point where I was at like 10,000 subscribers. But the people, and this is what I noticed, because I was paying attention to other YouTubers as well. Like one that I know of is like Frying Pan. He's a friend of mine. And a lot of people during the pandemic were making like skits and making videos that were just going super viral. He had a video that got like 5 million views. I remember looking at it, I was like, damn, I'm jealous. Like my video is getting like 500 views. It's going to take me like 100 years to get to that point. And so I was jealous of that. But the one thing I saw was the people watching the videos, they really, really liked them. Like they were like, this is so different from anything I have. Like, please keep making more videos. They were begging me to make videos. And so I thought that, okay, like this is small, but it's stable. It's good. It's something that I have control over. So I just stuck with it. I didn't think it was going to be like exponentially bigger than that. I thought like this was kind of the ceiling, but at least it's something. I think ad revenue wise from YouTube, I was making like $500. And I thought like the peak is probably going to be like $1,000 a month. I didn't even know about sponsors or anything else at that point. I didn't really play my hand super well, but then some time went by, I think like mid 2022, when I had been working at Google for a while. I'd stopped making videos as much. And then I thought like, hey, like there's these videos on YouTube. I could compile them into a website so that it's easier for people to use. One thing I was scared of was like I was getting YouTube search traffic. If somebody's typed in like a LeetCode problem, my video would be at the top. I was scared, like, what if that changes? My videos won't get views anymore. So then I threw them into a website. And that was my plan, like just create a free website. And then hopefully it'll help people and it'll keep my channel alive. And it did. And it also blew up. And that's the point where I realized, like, hey, this is actually really, really big. And I actually had no plans of making it a paid platform at all. I really didn't, because I just hadn't thought about that. And I was working with some sponsors and I was selling like their courses via my videos. And all I did was ask them for like a bigger cut because I was making them a lot of money. I remember, I think within like a few months, I had sold like $40,000 worth of their courses. So I was like, hey, can I have like a more than a 20% cut out of this? Because I feel like I'm doing a lot. And they're like, basically like, screw you, like, no. And I was like, okay. And I was just so mad about that. I couldn't even sleep that night. And I was like, because I'm a lazy person naturally, like I don't want to do things if I don't have to do them. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make my own platform and I bet I'll make more money doing that anyway. So instead of selling their courses, I made my own courses, which I thought were a lot better anyway. And surprisingly, like people are more willing to buy something from you than they are like if I'm trying to sell somebody else's product. Like that's something I noticed, like the conversions went up and the quality of it was better. And instead of like linking from NeetCode to like another site, I was just had it all kind of included there. And so around that time, I left my job at Google and then I kind of went full time into NeetCode. And then once it launched, I realized like, hey, this is enough revenue. And the choice was difficult to make, but I knew I could go back to Google within 12 months if I wanted to. So then that kind of gave me like some leeway. And then 2023 is like when the paid version pretty much launched and it did a lot better than I expected. I was making more than I was at Google. And then I just kind of stuck with that and have just been adding functionality to that. And I think social media drove a lot of my initial growth, but believe it or not, it's gotten to a point where more people are using NeetCode and then going to the YouTube channel than vice versa. It's not so much that the YouTube is driving the growth anymore. I think the flywheel has already been kind of set that like NeetCode is so like entrenched that like if somebody's in college and they're learning data structures and algorithms, their friends will tell them like, hey, I'm using NeetCode. And just kind of word of mouth, it's organically growing. So it started as like a creator business. Now it's more than that. And and surprisingly, it's still growing, like traffic-wise and revenue-wise. More people are using it. It's gotten to a point where it's kind of plateauing now. But I don't think the market is like infinitely big. It's going to keep growing forever. But yeah, as of now, it's doing pretty well.
All right, quick break. If you're trying to leave the 9-to-5 and build a business, this book has to be on your desk. $100 Million Money Models by Alex Hormozi. The whole $100 million series genuinely changed the game for me. It helped me nail offer structure, pricing, and packaging, and how to pick models that actually scale, not just sound good on paper. I credit this series to helping me build $1 million business in my 20s after leaving my corporate job. Now here's the fun part. I bought 200 copies to give away to listeners who want to start or level up their business. Here's how to get yours. You need to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. In honest review, you can say whatever you want, screenshot it, and just email the screenshot to reviews@manazir.org. We'll then send you a link to claim a free copy. We cover the cost of the book, you just cover shipping. That's it. If you want the ultimate resource to get serious about your offer and revenue model, this is it. So just leave a review, screenshot it, and email us. There are only 200 copies available, so do this as fast as possible. All right, back to the episode. Yeah, before I have a bunch of questions about the market space and where, because now you are a competitor to LeetCode now. You are not just NeetCode anymore. I think it started as, okay, you were kind of like living as, like a barnacle on like the shark that is LeetCode. And now you're another shark. I mean, I remember you posted some stat about how like before you started making the solution, the solver on your website, that it was like 10% of LeetCode's traffic came from NeetCode, which is crazy. And now you don't even have to go to LeetCode. You can just do it on NeetCode itself. And I've talked to a lot of students who are like, yeah, wait, what do you mean I do it on NeetCode? They don't even know that you can do it on LeetCode, which is crazy to me because, again, before when I was doing this stuff, it was before you had it so you could solve on your site there. But one question I do have is, a lot of people who are running creator businesses don't understand the value of a view on YouTube. You're talking about Frying Pan. I think there's another guy named Nicholas T. Or Jomo is the original one who was making these tech comedy sketches that were doing incredible views. I think if you look at Joma Tech's videos, even though he's not posting anymore as much, some of those most viral videos have 10, 15 million views on it, which is insane. I've never seen an educational video with 10 million views on it. How much is your most viral video?
I think probably like 3 million.
3 million. So even that is like a lot. But what people don't realize is that like the value of an educational view versus a comedy view, if you consider that in the sense of a business, it's significantly higher on your channel compared to like a comedy sketch channel. Because people who come to your channel, they're coming to learn, right? They're coming for a purpose. They're not coming to kind of like watch and laugh. So I also like tend to have that like bit of ego hit when I see someone else's videos that are entertainment focused end up like doing so much more than my videos, which are mostly educational. I would say like edutainment. But in terms of running a business, it's actually much more profitable to get a view from an educational purchasing intent viewer compared to just like an entertainment view. Also on the note you mentioned, which these sponsors, are you public about how much a sponsor would pay you? Because it's been several years now since you've worked with them.
Yeah, I actually don't know how much they would. Really? I don't really do anything with sponsors, but I speak to other people who do, and it varies a lot. Like I think I know a lot of creators going anywhere from like 3,000 to like 20,000 per video. So
do you remember how much they paid you at the time per video?
Very low. Like I did not know how to negotiate or work with sponsors. That was another reason I just wanted to do my own thing because I was kind of sick of getting screwed over. I remember I got a video that did like 200K views and they paid me like 3K for that, and I felt kind of like ripped off. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember one sponsor was going to pay me like $500 for a video that ended up getting 200K views on it. And I pulled out last minute, even before the video came out, because it was ridiculous. They were like, I was about to post, and then I sent it to them, and they were like, no, they wanted me to redo the sponsored portion and like yell like Mr. Beast for $550.
Jeez.
And I was like, what the goddamn hell? So then I just literally cut the deal. I was like, screw off. I posted the video. It's called like The Unfair Way I Got Good at LeetCode, and it got like 200,000 views on it. So these guys really messed up, and they just allowed me to post it for $500. But on the note, what you mentioned, I have my own products now. I have not done sponsorships in over a year at this point. And it is so unbelievably more profitable to make your own products and sell someone else's. It's insane.
Yeah.
I think sponsorships are completely overrated, especially for like more educational creators. I get it if you're Mr. Beast, if you're Logan Paul, okay, you need a brand to come behind you. But for me, it's like a 10 to 20x difference, maybe even like 50x difference in terms of like revenue I can get from a sponsor compared to just running my own product. It's insane. So I'd recommend people definitely look into building their own product on the back end of their channel compared to just taking like measly $500 off of a sponsor.
Yeah, for sure.
Talking about selling courses. I think there's actually a bit of a negative stigma against selling courses. I think both of us, I sell like my program is like coaching, but there's also courses as an element of it. You haven't gotten into like coaching or anything, right? It's mainly just self-paced currently.
Yeah, that's right.
Got it. So what is your opinion on like selling courses? I feel like a lot of people see it as like a bit of a negative thing. So I want to hear like, what is your stance on selling courses online?
Yeah, I think there's a few ways to like look at it. I think a lot of people will say like, well, why buy something when you can get it for free, or if there's like an alternative? And I think it depends on like what exactly you're getting. Like, for example, like I know NeetCode best, that like you get like a platform, you get exercises, you get videos, articles, like animations. I try to make it as good as possible. And the value proposition with something like that is like, do you want to do it? Like, for example, some people just like my teaching style, so they want to like learn it with me, and they're willing like to pay to do that. And another thing is the time investment. Like, if you're buying something and it's going to save you time, you're obviously going to get some kind of return on investment on it. So if you spend $100 on NeetCode and you save 50 hours of time that you could have, spent using like a bunch of other resources that are kind of like scattered all over the place, well, that comes out to like $2 per hour. Like, is that worth your time? And that's for people to decide themselves. But I think, yeah, and I think that's kind of how I look at it. But at the same time, like, I never force anybody to pay for NeetCode. Like, there's plenty of like free resources on there as well. And that's kind of my opinion, where like, I'm lucky enough to do this full time. I'm lucky enough to make money doing it. And I want to, I'm able to, because of the fact that I'm paid to do this, I can also create more free content as well. So it's kind of like, market-wise, when you look at how things were before NeetCode, where like Algo Expert was like the alternative, people like, it did not have any free resources. Like, it was kind of a worse system. So now I have a system where NeetCode, like, there is a paid product, and I think it's pretty good, but there's also like the free resources as well that I've been able to make because of the paid product. So it's like, it kind of works hand in hand. So I think that's kind of how I think about it. Like, I feel like it's a better system than there was before. Who knows? Maybe somebody's going to come along and do something even better than I'm doing and displace me or whatever. That's fine. Like, it's a free market. Anybody can do that. But I think like there is value in paying for something, even though a lot of people, especially developers, are like reluctant to do that. Nobody wants to like pay money for something you can do for free. It's kind of like an ego hit to a lot of people, and to me as well sometimes. But as I've kind of gotten older and as I've been able to have more disposable income, I've realized that like oftentimes it's definitely worth paying for something if it can give you like a really good outcome, like get a job or something like that. Like, that's going to be a huge ROI if you can do that. Yeah, that's generally how I think about it.
My stance on this is that if paying $300 to $500 for some NeetCode resources gets them a job one day earlier or 2 days earlier, they instantly earn that back working for 2 days. And honestly, from my opinion, like, buying your courses, it's going to save people not just a few days, not just a few weeks, maybe months of effort of, finding these free resources online, compiling them. So it's like a 100x return at that point. So I don't understand what's the reason to not do it. And these same people who would complain about, oh, this guy's selling a course, or I'm buying a course from this person, they buy a course called college. Yeah, they'll invest thousands of dollars into significantly worse products. I can tell you, as someone who did a computer science degree from not Harvard, but I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison, which is like a decent CS school, those professors were actually worse than NeetCode. Like, I learned less from my algorithms class that I did from using your data structures and algorithms course. And that class cost me thousands of dollars because I was out of state, compared to your courses, which are like in the hundreds of dollars. So I don't understand what the reaction is, because why would you pay for a university course that's significantly worse, that's more expensive, and complain about a significantly better course for cheaper anyway? Like, what's the problem there?
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, I forgot about that. Like, I'm happy that I went to college, and I'm happy that I spent like, I don't know, like $50,000 on college, I think in total. I went in-state, and it still costed me that much. And I'm glad I did the assignments and I, learned a decent amount. But honest to God, if somebody just gave me a few textbooks that are half decent, and nowadays you have pretty much everything on YouTube, you have everything on ChatGPT. Honest to God, I could have learned the exact same thing in half the time and learned it better, and I would have been better off, and then I could have gotten a job. So it's like, when you think about that, when you think about in terms of the world that we live in and how big problems are, I think the education system problem is by far the biggest one. And it's so big because like I said, I could have done it 2 years earlier. And in those 2 years, the opportunity cost is like a full-time salary. So it's not just the cost of college, it's the cost of time. And it's the cost of so many things. And man, if I could redo life, I think I would be one of those people who was in high school learning programming, being cracked, maybe doing community college during high school, and then getting a degree as quickly as possible, and then getting a full-time job as quickly as possible. Because I know several people who've done that, and they're able to make a lot of money. They don't have as much debt, and they enjoy their time a lot better. They save time. So it's just crazy to me. But yeah, it's just. Just thinking about it makes my blood boil. I really just hate the system of college so much.
I feel like university is perhaps one of the most overrated things ever, honestly. Sure, maybe 50 to 100 years ago, it was definitely worth it. And I think both of us still got an ROI. I've made more than I invested in college, I guess. But if you consider, even for me, I was out of state. So I was paying $40K a year or something to go to this 4-year degree. Or I think I did it 3.5. So let's say it was $150K degree. If I just had $150,000 and I was just outside of the system, just buying this course, buying this coaching, investing in my own earning potential, I would have saved. I honestly think I would have made more in a much shorter period of time, and I would have saved that opportunity cost, like you said. So my honest to God, my stance on this is that I don't think I'm going to advise my kids go to college if it's not much better. Maybe there'll be a whole system rewrite in 20 or 30 years where the college system goes down and there's something else that's replaced it. But if I could go back to when I was 18, I would not have gone to college. I just don't think. Maybe I would have done some boot camps online, some community college, and just self-studied or something like that. But actually, most likely I would have just started a business. But I definitely would not just go and do a 4-year degree, and I would not advise that my kids do that. Now, I think, sure, it depends on what you want to do. If you want to be a surgeon or a lawyer, okay, fine, you kind of have to go to college. But even out-of-state schools, I just don't think are the tuition just does not match the value that you're actually getting there compared to just online resources and your own private education there.
Yeah, I completely agree.
For a lot of NeetCode's history, you were faceless. I believe at least it was, 2 or 3 years as a faceless channel. When did you actually face reveal?
I think it was mid-2023, so about 2 years ago.
Okay, so around the first 3 years of NeetCode was faceless, and then you decided to face reveal. What was the reasoning behind keeping it faceless, and why did you decide to actually end that and become a face on YouTube?
Yeah, I guess the short answer is, I grew up using the internet. I'm kind of old school, and the internet I grew up in, where you kind of just talk trash to people and stuff like that. That's kind of what I was used to. So I didn't really want to be a public figure. I'm not really interested in being famous or having people know my name or anything like that. But when I got to the point where I launched a product, I was it's hard to sell something without I should at least show people who I am and stuff like that. But that was kind of the reason. I don't regret it at all. I'm glad that I've met a lot of people. People have recognized me on the streets of Seattle sometimes, and it's really nice to see people that you actually help in real life, and then they thank you and stuff like that. But I think staying faceless was an opportunity. Was an option, but I wanted to just put myself out there, and so far no regrets.
I actually remember when that video came out. It was your last day at Google. I recall the thumbnail was a blurry of your face. As soon as I saw that, I immediately sent it to my friends and family because it was just so interesting to see who's the face behind NeetCode. You getting recognized, how often does that happen? Because I know you said your brand is not really you. Your true fans know who you are, of course, but most of the people using NeetCode probably don't know who Navdeep is. So how often do you get recognized, and what's that like?
Once in a while in Seattle. It depends where I am. When I visit a tech building, or a friend of mine will take me to Microsoft or something, I'll have a few people recognize me there. But usually it's less common, like just out on the streets and stuff. I also don't go like out super often. But yeah, it's always nice to like meet people. It starts to feel real because usually I'm just like sitting in my room making videos and it's just kind of living on the internet. But then when you kind of step outside and you meet people, especially like at a tech office, and they're like, hey, like your videos of what got me the job here, it feels really like gratifying. And you kind of see things like beyond just the numbers and like the subscriber count. You kind of see like the people and like how much they care. It's not just about like views, but it's about like how important those views were to like certain people and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like for brands like us, we're a bit more niche, right? I'm not, none of us are like Kanye West or something where just random people on the street recognize you. So for me, even though like my scale is smaller than yours, I have been recognized a handful of times. It's always someone in a computer science, like a CS major or software engineer. I actually remember when I was doing my Amazon internship 3 to 4 years back, I was in the Amazon office playing ping pong, and then some guy like tapped me on my shoulder, and he was a fellow intern, and he shows me my video cataloging how I got that Amazon internship that went pretty viral. And he was like, I watched this like 6 months ago when you posted it. I did what you said, and I'm here with the internship with you.
That's so fun.
And I was like, holy shit. Like, this guy literally watched my video 6 months ago, studied the Amazon leadership principles, started grinding LeetCode, got a referral, and just like literally did exactly what I said to do in the video, and then got the internship, not even a different year, in the same year as me. So that was a pretty crazy experience. I remember one time I was at the gym and I was changing, and some guy taps me on the shoulder, and he was on the treadmill watching one of my videos. So I've always had like some weird moments like that. And I definitely think if I was like in a CS building, I might get recognized by a handful of people. I think you would definitely get recognized if you were in a CS building. So that's interesting. Have you ever been recognized like where we are right now in your hometown, or not really?
I don't recall, actually. There was one person, but they didn't like say anything to me, and I think they were just like staring at me. So like I think they recognized me, but I'm not sure. They did like a double take, but yeah.
I was walking with my girlfriend the other day in New York City, like last week, and then we saw some guy wearing like a Google t-shirt, and then he saw me and he like did a double tip, but he didn't say anything. So maybe this is egotistical. Maybe he's seen some of my videos here and there, but I think that's kind of funny.
That's fine.
Yeah. So talking about what do you tell people you do? Because that's something I would struggle with, right? Because depending on I'm in the audience, I tell people, sometimes I say I'm in tech. Maybe that's not accurate. I say I'm a YouTuber sometimes. Not really. I'm kind of an entrepreneur. I guess entrepreneur is the most accurate thing, but then people think I own like a laundry machine or something. Yeah. So like, tell me, what do you like? How do you introduce yourself, and what do you say you do?
Yeah, I usually tell people I'm a software developer. They usually don't ask beyond that. And I tell them I work like remote. And if they do, I tell them I work at Google still, believe it or not. And it's a funny story. Like my extended family as well. Like I still tell them I work at Google just because I don't want them to know. Because I don't know about you, but like the way Indian people are, like, they get nosy and then they spread everything. So I just like to say like low profile. And yeah, I just tell people I'm a software developer.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm shocked that your extended family hasn't just figured it out online. I actually have a good friend of mine. She's a full-time YouTuber, and her parents don't even know she's a YouTuber because she doesn't want that like attention and controversy about it with the extended family. She just tells them she's like working at a startup or something. So I think it's really funny how it's just like the easiest answer is just to say I'm at Google. But I'm surprised that they just haven't figured it out at this point.
Yeah, like sometimes they ask me like if Google does layoffs or like something will happen, they'll ask me like, hey, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, everything's all good.
Everything's all good. Don't worry about it. So let's go back to when you said that NeetCode actually has NeetCode. It's NeetCode.io, right?
Yep.
Has greater traction than like the website itself has more traction than your YouTube channel. How do you think that switch happened? And like, tell me more about your vision on how NeetCode became a competitor to LeetCode itself.
Yeah, I think it's honestly all about like user experience. I've kept NeetCode like very, very simple, and it just solves like one problem and it does it very well. Like I'm so focused on like data structures and algorithms. Like I don't need a million features on NeetCode. I'm focused on DSA and doing it very well. Man, there's like a list of problems. Like you go on LeetCode, there's like 5,000 problems. Like what do you do? The order is kind of crazy. Like you don't know how to do it. There's no explanations. And I mean, you can comment and stuff and talk with other people, but it's kind of hard to use. So I made NeetCode very simple, very easy to use. And the explanations, I think, are really what drives it. If I didn't have the explanations, I think at that point it would just be just the list of problems, which which is also a big factor, I think. Like the fact that I took 150 problems and said, hey, this is all you need. Because when somebody's solving problems or preparing, they're asking like, what should I do? And they don't want to make choices. Like people hate making choices. So you have to take the choice away from them. So you just give them the problems, like these are the problems you need to solve. So I think that's mainly what drove everything. Like that was the main difference between LeetCode, because otherwise LeetCode is pretty good. I mean, as like a platform, like the tech on it is pretty good. So I needed something to differentiate. Now, if somebody were to copy what I'm doing right now and make their own website, it's probably not going to get traction just because you have to differentiate somehow. And unless they blow up on social media or something, I don't think they would really be able to take something away. Even if their videos are somehow 10% better than mine, even that's just not going to be enough to displace me. Like I'm just so entrenched. My social media following is so big that if somebody's going to talk about coding interviews, they're going to talk about NeetCode probably. And that's a very like good position to be in. That's kind of like the strategy of it.
Yeah. There's a couple of principles I just heard from what you said. I think the first one is network effects. Like you said, NeetCode is so entrenched that I actually think LeetCode benefit from this early on as well. Like the fact that we call them LeetCode problems is interesting, right? People, like even with Roy Lee's platform, like Interview Coder, he said, I hate LeetCode. LeetCode is now the language. It's like the term. I wonder if it's even in the dictionary. Probably not, but it's a company's name that's been the term. I think it's similar to Kleenex, right? Like people associate Kleenex as a brand name, but it's just like a facial tissue is a Kleenex, right? So I think NeetCode is similar in the way that you have that market space. You have those network effects. I recommend every single one of my students uses NeetCode. I think there would have to be a significantly better platform that has some kind of other angle to it to actually displace. And so I think you're very established in the world of like tech preparation interviews. The other business principle I teased away from what you said there is sometimes simplicity wins. Sometimes less features ends up being a better product.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to Apple versus Android or Apple versus Windows. I think even today, if you look at some Android phones, like, I don't know about the Google Pixel nowadays, but like say the Samsung phones, on paper, they're actually better than iPhones, especially nowadays with AI and how like Apple's completely fallen off when it comes to the advent of AI and LLMs and their technology. But Apple actually has a greater market share, especially in the US, because most people are not power users. Most people want a very clear step-by-step path with less things, and that's actually a better product for them. LeetCode has, I don't know how much they have now. I think last time it's like between 2 and 10,000 problems, right? Like how many do you know?
I think it's like 3,500 something.
3,500, right? It's around 4,000 problems. Yeah. And how much does your platform have currently?
I mean, there's like the 150 list, but I think 250 is like the total that you can solve.
Exactly. So you have 250 problems. LeetCode has 4,000. So that's a 20x more problems that LeetCode has. And LeetCode has challenges. They have comments. They have all this stuff, right? So in theory, someone would be like, oh, like LeetCode's going to win. But actually, most people don't actually care about any of that. They only want to use NeetCode and LeetCode to actually achieve the outcome, which is to get a job in tech. And they're not power users who are doing contests all the time. They just need like a simple step-by-step path. And even now thinking about it, like if I think about LeetCode, I think they have improved a little bit. They've tried to make it simpler and more straightforward. It is still not obvious what to do when you get to the platform. If you open LeetCode.com, there's top interview questions. There's like the Google lists or whatever. There's contests. There's the daily, right? Like you just have no idea what to do. And I think giving someone like a step-by-step path is actually like a significant value boost that you have.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, that's why I made like the roadmap, which is like a gamified thing where it's very like visual. It's very easy to use. You kind of see everything. Like you see, okay, this is where I am starting and this is where I want to end. And it just kind of, it just makes it a little bit easier. And that's something I've seen a lot. I haven't used Duolingo a lot, but I saw recently that the last couple of years, like their growth has been like exponential because of like the gamification. And it's just so crazy to me how like that kind of a little change like that can just completely change like the growth of something. And it's so subtle and it's so interesting to me, like how like TikTok was like the first shorts platform kind of, and to this day they're still bigger than like Reels or YouTube Shorts. And you kind of look at that and think like, well, what's the difference between these? And I think it's just like the culture, like in TikTok's case, the culture that they built up, like it's a very different platform than Reels. Like you'll see different videos, the algorithm is different. And those like really subtle things, they really, really matter. Like that's why you have to pay attention to users and you have to start small and focus on those subtle things, because those subtle things, once you scale them out, are going to be huge. Like that will like make or break the business. And I think for me, that's just really interesting to like learn about and pay attention to.
Absolutely. Let's talk about scaling here. So how do you decide what to go after next? Because for me, that's a big challenge of mine, right? And obviously, as you know, like anytime you run a business, lead generation, conversion, and fulfillment are kind of those three big buckets there. So I'm curious, what are like the big next plays when it comes to NeetCode? What are your goals for it? And how do you decide what to actually go after next?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think in my case, I'm like very happy to just continue like improving things like as they are. Like I don't necessarily see myself needing to like scale infinitely. And I also don't see like, no matter how addicting I make solving LeetCode problems, most people aren't going to want to do that in their free time because they're just doing it for interviews. So I'm fine with that. And so I think just going after like adjacent markets that are also like interesting to me, just creating more educational content, stuff that I find interesting, stuff that people find helpful is kind of just been my strategy. I don't think so much about like the business side, because even if like the business doesn't grow from here, like I'm fine with that. Like I don't necessarily need more money and stuff. I'm more focused on just kind of creating something that's long lasting, which is somewhat out of my control. Like I don't know how long LeetCode interviews are going to last, but I can make my platform as good as possible. I can make sure nobody displaces me while like these types of interviews are still a thing. And I can make sure that like social media wise, like people are still hearing about like NeetCode and just kind of running things that way. Yeah, that's mostly been my strategy.
So I'm very curious, in terms of the growth of NeetCode, is it all just organic? You're not running any paid ads or paid marketing. It's truly just NeetCode videos on YouTube. And then at this point, it's like self-reinforcing. It's word of mouth. So what are the biggest marketing channels for you in the early days and today as well?
Yeah, I found that investing in social media, if you can really get good at it, is the best thing. Like paid ads are so expensive. I've never really explored that. And even if I did, I don't think I would get like a positive ROI on it. But I think investing in social media is a little bit less scalable. I mean, a lot less scalable than paid ads, but it's more powerful. And like, again, if you're not going after a massive market, you don't need that infinite scale. Like social media is enough. And not only that, but the social media actually builds credibility. Like you create content, whether it's on LinkedIn or YouTube, those are kind of my main platforms for educational content. And if you create that and people are like, hey, this is pretty good, I kind of want to see more of this, I'm willing to pay for it. That's kind of the best way you can convince somebody anyway. That's mainly been my strategy. So like, I don't do paid marketing. I do pay people to help me create like social media content, not too much, like it's just a few thousand a month. But yeah, that's been my biggest thing. I'll also say that the business has gotten to a point where now the social media content is really only responsible for a small amount of the revenue and a small amount of the traffic. So like there's two parts of it. Like the social media can help kind of drive growth and kind of start the flywheel and maintain the flywheel, but also like whatever you create, whatever the business is, it should be something that people actually care about and do want to use. So that's kind of having both of those two working has been driving a lot of the success.
Yeah, I think something that's a lesson here is your product was just so much better than anyone else's that it just won. I think the way that a lot of companies and people think they need to invest so much in just marketing and sales, and that can work. Like I think, being very marketing and sales heavy can help in the early days, especially, but in the long term, the best product usually wins. People are going to use what is actually better. So on the note of paid ads, I've been actually exploring them for the first time over the past few months for my product. And I found that they are useful for retargeting. So my ad will target people who already watch my videos. And I feel like for you, that could be really helpful, especially if you were considering like trying to get more people through the front door. You could do like a retargeting ad. You could set it up on like Google Ads. Their backend is pretty good nowadays. And it'll retarget people who watch computer science videos in general and have like watched a NeetCode video. And that could do really well. But honestly, like at this point, like you said, you're kind of just coasting with, you don't even need social media marketing. It's just so powerful via word of mouth.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, that sounds interesting. I'd definitely like to explore because I tried Facebook ads, like learning about it. I didn't actually get them like running, but the Facebook ads, like their interface was so bad. Like I was just shocked. Like I got locked out of my account like 5 times. I had to upload my ID like 5 times. And it's like, how many more times do you need to see this? I don't know if they're just trying to collect my information or not because it's Meta, but still.
I agree. I think, yeah, I've also explored meta ads. Meta ads are actually better if you don't have a following. Like if you're completely fresh and you just want to go straight to ads. They're pretty profitable, but I agree the platform is terrible. I think Instagram's user experience is very good for the consumer, but for brands, it's horrible. Like even trying to schedule out content with like, I think YouTube is way, way, way better in terms of their back end for creators.
Yeah.
But for Google ads, we've actually found that we have a 1 to 10 ratio of $1 invested into Google ads and revenue.
Oh,
so that's
wow.
a very good ratio. Like I can put like $100 into my Google ad and get $1,000 of revenue back from that.
Oh, wow.
Which is a top line, obviously before expenses. Yeah. But it seems to be really useful. And I'm running like a bit of a service-based business. Like we have team members, we have coaches, and so that eats out a lot of that. For you, you're almost pure profit. So I think Google Ads platform is a lot easier to use. Plus, you have a really large organic YouTube following anyway, right? You have a lot of people who just watch NeetCode videos, even the back catalog. So the ad will target very effectively. And finally, you don't even need multiple ads. I think like literally just a very clear call to action, something like, hey, do you like these videos? Do you want more of this? Do you want to get a job in tech? Do you want to save time? Check out NeetCode.io. Even like calling people to go off of YouTube to your website could be a really good funnel. But again, like you said, you're kind of good where you are anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really interesting. It kind of shows like how, like in my case at least, like I had developed such a big like blind spot because things were working so well like in this direction. I didn't even explore like the other direction. But yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. I'm curious on what your team members are like. So what's your current team setup?
I have like, I think 5 total people. One person is doing social media. One person is kind of handling like all the support and like emails and stuff like that. And then 3 people are helping with like course content and like developing the site and adding more problems and just like coding in general. So I prefer to keep things small. I mean, I could keep scaling it, but I find that like getting a few people that are really, really good is better than getting too many people. And I just don't really like managing in general. Like if it was up to me, I would do everything myself. Like I'm just like super obsessed with like control and making sure everything is perfect. But it's just not, things just don't work that way. And I think stepping outside of like my comfort zone has been like honestly the biggest challenge. Like when people look at something and they say, hey, like that technical part is really hard. Like how did you do that? For me, at least, like most of that stuff was pretty easy. Like I'd never even built a personal project that I deployed until NeetCode. I'm dead serious. Like I didn't do coding because like for fun because I think that wasn't really my interest making projects and stuff. When I had to do it, it was like kind of annoying setting up Stripe and all that stuff, but I got it figured out. Like I'm an engineer, I can do that. And that stuff was pretty easy, but the hiring part and like working with people and like explaining things to them and making sure I hire the right person and stuff like that, that stuff is a lot harder and was a lot big of a learning curve for me.
The beauty of being a software engineer is that you're kind of used to figuring out things on your own. So like Stripe as well, like we use Stripe. It was a little bit annoying to figure out, but you like problem solving is kind of our second nature, right? As software engineers. But yeah, managing people, hiring is something I'm really struggling with nowadays. Kind of the biggest bottleneck is how do I find great people and how do I incentivize them to come work for us? And I just don't think there's any resources online. Like maybe there's like kind of some videos here and there, but I was actually asking ChatGPT the other day, how do like executives learn how to hire? Like, do I have to go to business school or something? Like, there doesn't seem like there's a clear, easy, like step-by-step tutorial. Use like whatever best hiring platform it is based on the role. Like, here's the interview questions you have to ask. Here's what to look for. Here's how you build your company culture. Here's what the next hires are. So I agree. I think hiring is kind of that big difficulty next step. So do you just do like all of the development yourself, or do you have like software engineers working under you to actually maintain the site?
Yeah, I have a few people doing some coding for me, and it took me a long time to even get to that point where I just wanted, because my code base was messy. I was like, somebody's not going to understand it. It's better if I do everything myself and stuff like that. But that was just not the correct decision. But I mean, you kind of have to balance like enjoying your job as well as like growing, because if you don't enjoy it, then it's going to be hard to grow. But yeah, I still do a lot of the coding myself because I enjoy it. And also, honestly, I think because I coded the whole thing myself, and it's not like a massive code base, but even if I were to hire like a senior developer or something, like they'll never ramp up to the point where they know it as well as I do, because I wrote all of it, and some of it is written pretty slothfully, unfortunately. So like I'm just able to do things exponentially faster than somebody else. And it's not, I mean, I use AI to help me, but unfortunately AI is not really good in my code base. I don't know if it's because it's Angular or not, but it just isn't.
Regarding your actual videos and solutions, do you still make all of that yourself? Like all the course content, all the solutions, it's all like completely produced by you still?
Yeah, some of the course content I get help with, but for the LeetCode videos, I still do that because like I said, I got to the point where I'm just so good at it. Like I can pump those videos out so easily to the point where like my competitive advantage over somebody else making those videos is just so high now that like, and those videos don't really get that many views either, like less than 10,000 views each at most. And, but they're so easy for me to make, and I enjoy making them that I will still sometimes make them. But yeah.
So kind of taking a step back here and going towards someone who was in your shoes 3 or 4 years ago. They're a software engineer, maybe they're in some other industry, and they're seeing this social media boom. They're hearing you listen, like they're listening to us talk. Both of us used to be engineers, and both of us run creator businesses online. What advice do you have to them at this stage? Do you recommend that someone like quits their job and goes all in? Do you recommend they create content on the side, kind of showing their work? What would that kind of like step-by-step play be if someone wanted to, make money online who's like a career professional currently?
Yeah, I would highly recommend doing it while you still have a job, just because you never know like the uncertainty of it. But it seems like nowadays, especially if you're like a domain expert or if you have some kind of specialized skill set, there's so many more opportunities to create content because people are looking for like alternative ways to learn. Like, why would you go to college or even like MBA or like, like sometimes like Harvard or other like top business schools and stuff, they'll like have those kind of like shorter term classes where I guess you get like you get to network and you get to have something on your resume. But like oftentimes like the quality of education from that is worse than just going to somebody who is directly in industry. Like if you're deep in industry working on something difficult, or like a developer, like a senior developer or something, like you have a specialized skill set, you have a perspective that most people don't. And you could do anything. You could teach a college class, you could teach like online classes, like cohort-based classes are a big thing now. Like there's platforms like Maven, I think. There's a lot of opportunities. So if like, I would kind of think about it in terms of that, like what kind of value do you have and how can you share it with other people?
Awesome. Thanks for doing this, man. It was nice doing this episode.
Yeah, of course. Thanks.
That's today's episode of Liftoff. Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you want early access to every single one of these episodes, head over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other podcast app of choice and follow Liftoff with Aman Manazir. That's right. You can listen to every episode early on the podcast apps before they get released on YouTube. So make sure to go over and follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, turn on notifications, or check the links in the description. And finally, always remember, the night is darkest before the dawn. I'll see you in the next one.